Namaste. Have you ever been deeply absorbed in your work, completely dedicated to your purpose, only for someone to walk into your space and dump a avalanche of negative energy, personal traumas of them, and unprovoked superiority complex right onto you? Because you value a peace, you don't fight back. You might smile, nod, or say, "Yes, you are right. I will look it into the tomorrow." You do it to de-escalate a tension, but after they walk away, something heavy settled in your chest. You look around, perhaps in front of very people who look up to you, and you realize, I feel completely devalued. If you have experienced this, take a deep breath. You are not a weak. You are trapped in profound, invisible institutional dynamic that affects a millions of gentle, empathic people worldwide. I know this not just because I study a human nature, but because it happened to me right here in my own workspace. Recently, while I was conducting a clinical round with my nursing student in the hospital ward, a staff nurse, someone who didn't even know my rank, my post, or my background, marched up to me, driven by a evident superiority complex and workplace stress. She began loudly lecturing and yelling at me about my personal grooming, right in front of my class and the patient. My default instinct was to choose a peace. I calmly said, "Yes, you are right, but I come here every day, so people know me." Did she stop? No, not at all. She bypassed my explanation entirely and used my kindness as an open door to pour out her toxic complaints about a past workplace and other people for their own experiences. I choose a non resistance, but internally, the space was violated. The authority needed to protect my student learning environment was compromised. But here is where the trap snaps shut. When you look to your institution for a backing, when you report it to your private college management, they ignore it. They tell you to let it go. Why? Because a private college is dependent on the hospital for the clinical permission. They value a financial institutional relationship over the individual dignity of their faculty. If you yell back, the hospital will magnify the issue, blame you, and jeopardize your career. So I cannot yell back to the sisters working over there. I cannot tell my complaint to the higher authority to them. If you stay submissive, you destroy your own self respect. Today, as a professor and a student of a Zen, I want to unpack the deep psychology, the data, and the spiritual anatomy of this exact trap and show you how to build an unshakable boundary that transforms you from an emotional sponge into a spiritual mirror. Let's deep dive into the diagnosis and the clinical reality of this problem. To survive a toxic system, we must analyze it with the absolute scientific objective. What you are witnessing in these corridors is not just a bad behavior, it is a recognized systematic issue called a lateral or a horizontal violence. Data published in a healthcare and institutional sociology shows that understaffed, high-stressed environment turns individuals into emotional bullies. When people lack the internal intelligence to process their own burnout, they look for someone they perceive as a safe or outside their core hierarchy to dominate. As a visiting professor or instructor, you become a perfect target. When someone hits you with an unprovoked attack, They are executing a specific psychological maneuvers. First, porous boundaries. This is the structural issue on our end. Highly empathetic people often have an open door policy for other people's emotional state. We absorb external stress like a sponge absorb a dirty water. Second, a psychological projection. The person yelling at you is projecting their own feeling of powerlessness or lack of recognition. They are attempting to regulate their bruised ego by the tearing your own down. Third, a negative reinforcement. This is the trap of saying, yes, you are right. In behavioral psychology, when you appease a aggressor to avoid a fight, you accidentally teach them that yelling at you gets them compliance. You are rewarding their bad behavior, ensuring they will return to dump more trauma on you in the future. When you cannot fight a system externally because they hold all the structural power, you must defeat them strategically, intellectually, and spiritually. We must address this across a four distinct human layers. Layer 1, the classroom reclamation, social and individual layer. Your deepest pain is this scenario is often the fear that your students or juniors have lost respect for you. We must repair this immediately by transforming a attack's toxic behavior into a profound academic lecture. What's the strategy? In your next private post clinical defining with your student, look them in the eyes and address a elephant in the room calmly. Tell your student, you all witnessing a staff nurse yelling at me during our rounds. I want you to analyze that moment closely. What you saw was a textbook case of a lateral violence and workplace burnout. I choose not to react unprofessionally or yell back because our priority is your education and protecting our college clinical placement. True professional maturity means knowing when to swallow your ego to protect the larger mission. Never mistake my silence for the weakness. It is a strategy. Instantly, we are flipping the script. You are no longer the victim of a shouting match. You are a wise master using a real world crisis to teach emotional intelligence. Your student will respect you more than ever. Layer 2, the Zen Ghost. Professional and emotional level. The next time someone tries to cross the line, you cannot say, yes, you are right, because that validates the abuse. Yes, I made a mistake by telling, yes, you are right. But you absolutely cannot yell back and make a sound. Instead, you become professional wall. Then what's the strategy? Use a completely neutral, robotic, professional disconnect. Stop, look them dead in the eyes. Let there be a 2 second of absolute silence, delivered with a flat, emotionless voice. Tell the nurses, I note your feedback. Please put it in an official email to my college so it can be reviewed through a proper channel. I am continuing my clinical round now. Turn your back calmly, step away, and focus on your work. You have passed the ball into bureaucratic court they do not want to play in. You have refused to give their ego the emotional fuel it is starving for. Layer 3, the Zen solution, the mirror effect, not the sponge effect. As a practitioner of Zen, we must understand the nature of non resistance. Non resistant does not mean becoming a doormat, it means allowing an attack to meet an empty space. First, unaccepted gift, as Buddha told. Remember the words of Buddha: if someone offers you an insult and you choose not to accept it, to whom does it belong? It remains with the giver. When someone yells at you, mentally view their words as an envelope of trust. Keep your hands at your side and let it drop directly onto the floor. The "is that so" technique. If you must respond to keep moving without feeding their ego, use the ultimate Zen neutralizer. Acha, I see. Or, is that so? These words, delivered with a totally blank, unreadable face, it offers a zero emotional friction. Layer 4. The Brahma Kumari shield, a spiritual level. From the highest spiritual perspective, we must operate from a soul consciousness, Atma Abhyasa. First, a diplomat mindset. You are a spiritual diplomat visiting a chaotic territory. A diplomat doesn't get into the street fight with the local border guards. You are there on a higher mission to light the minds of your student. Second, see the spiritual poverty. When someone yells, see through the mask. The soul that is genuinely powerful, content, and aligned is naturally sweet and respectful. A person who demands a dominance is spiritually bankrupt. Their inner battery is totally empty. They are screaming because they are starving for energy. The full stop method. The system might be corrupt and your management might be weak, but your inner stage belongs to you. Apply an immediate spiritual full stop. Do not reply the scene. Say to yourself, this is just a scene in a passing drama. It cannot touch the diamond of my soul. To every professor, teacher, and the nurses and the professionals who are watching this, be a good human first. Being a good human doesn't mean letting your dignity be a casualty of institutional conveniences. You do not need a broken system to validate your post or your goodness. Your value is alive in the knowledge you plant in your student and the peace you keep in your heart. Stand like a mountain. Let the toxic wave crash against you and recede. They cannot move you unless you give them a permission. Step into your strategic authority. Protect your peace, protect your student, and refuse to accept a gift of chaos that do not belong to you. If you are dealing with a toxic workplace or an institution that doesn't back you up, drop your story in the comment below. Let's build a community of unshakable professionals. Until next time, stay anchored, stay wise, and remember who you are. Be peace, be Zen. Thank you.